In this episode,
I don't know if you've seen it. There's a new movie out right now based on a book called Thinking of Ending Things. And the dialogue in that movie is just incredible, man. It's one of those movies where you either think it's the greatest thing or you think it's the worst movie and waste of your time that you've ever seen. So,
like the Florida Project.
Ooh.
Like
Ladies
the
and
Florida
gentlemen, this
Project.
is the last PaleoCheeze podcast episode. Thanks for tuning in.
Welcome. You're listening to PaleoCheeze Podcast, episode 19, part 1, Nerding Out and the Great Gaming Debate.
Hello, dear listener. I'm Chad Lutzke.
And I'm Jeremiah Bannister.
And you're listening to PaleoCheeze Podcast. We're part of the Project Entertainment Network.
Yeah.
With a podcast where a seasoned horror veteran holds the white-knuckled hand of a horror newbie. It's Jeremiah, as they explore the genre together, film by film. And today is another shoot from the hip episode.
I like these, dude.
Yeah, they're fun.
They're fun, man. And you know, we're doing the whole movie thing. We've done a whole bunch of really great movie reviews. We've got a bunch of really great ones coming up. In fact, we just landed yet another guest, another really cool one. And so we've got to pick from a handful of movies, man, that are, you know, they always kind of toss us, 3 or 4. I think this time it was what, 5, 6?
Yeah, the 3 and then a couple of bonus ones just for the heck of it.
Yeah, but it broke my heart that he said Jaws. He needs to realize, man, I did a Jaws reaction video. He needs to watch that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'd watch Jaws. Actually, you know what? I wouldn't watch Jaws again, but I would watch Jaws 2.
Yeah. So if anyone who wants to see the one solo reaction video that Jeremiah has put up, it's the only one available. Not sure why, but you can go watch that on our channel.
Well, there's a good reason why. Okay, we've got, I think there's like 4 or 5 different reaction videos that have been recorded, but we decided to do something a little bit different. And that was that in the Jaws reaction video, it was pictures. And now we want to do it to where it's actually got video clips from the film. The problem is I don't own any of them and I don't know how to do it. So if you're out there and you know how to do that, or you just know how to use Google and you're not lazy like me, and you say, look, here's the link, buddy, just read it. I'll read it. And so you can do that. You can email us at paleocheeze@gmail.com. But that's why, because I edited Evil Dead and I edited It Follows, and I started The Host. So there's some work to put into it. We're gonna have them.
All right, man. So,
and then we'll reach 1 million. We'll reach 1 million subscribers as soon as it's
goodness,
done.
Yeah,
immediately.
Wow. We get to quit our jobs.
Yeah, what are you gonna do with all that money, Chad?
Oh man, I don't know. I'll probably buy an entire 2-liter.
A whole one.
Yeah.
Have you been buying the 1 liters this whole time? But aren't 1 liters actually more expensive than 2 liters?
Probably.
I think they are. Hey, what's up with that, by the way? Like, well, I don't understand that. They're like, oh yeah, for 1 liter of Mountain Dew, it's this price. For 2 liters, it's like half the price. And you're thinking, wait, something's weird about this.
It's just the way the cookie crumbles, man.
Yeah.
The way our screwed up world works, and the big corporations trying to stick it to us.
Dude, you know that like the conversation that happens around the table for these marketers, somebody's like us. You just know somebody works there that's like, guys, I don't understand this. It's 2 times the amount and the bottle's 2 times the size, but it's half the price. Like what's up with that? And you just know that the leaders of the corporation, these real evil schemester guys in black suits and stuff, they're like, that's just the way the cookie crumbles. Weird world, man. Like that's the end of it. And he's like, I guess, I know though, Chad, what I would buy. I've been thinking about it, man. I've been thinking about what I'm going to do with all that money when we're rolling in it. And you have to go. I sent a secret message to your Facebook, and you got to look at this thing because you can't.
Okay.
And we'll have to share it. You know, you'll have to describe it once you see it, dude. It is by far maybe the single greatest shirt that's ever been made, ever, on accident.
Okay. So shall I look at it right now?
Yeah. Yes, dude. You got to look at it. And I guess I already said it was a shirt, but I know you love shirts. You're a big shirt guy. And this one right here, dude.
Okay. It's funny that you should. Yeah. My friend posted this the other day. It's a picture of Kiss in full makeup, but it says Led Zeppelin. And I told my buddy Terry M. West, we wrote a novelette together. He posted it. I said I'd wear the crap out of that shirt if Ace Frehley and Peter Criss were on it, because maybe you can't tell, Jeremiah, but those two guys are scabs, and they've been in playing scabs under that makeup for the past, I don't know, 15 years.
Oh.
I know you don't follow music too closely, but yeah, theyese two guys are they're wearing Ace Frehley and Peter Criss's makeup, and they play the shows. No offense to them, they're good musicians, but it's not Ace and Peter. And if it was, I'd wear that. I'd wear that shirt.
See, I think I would wear that shirt, knowing what I know now, maybe even more, just because that's like an extra layer of oopsie doopsie. Yeah. You know what I mean? I mean, they're like, true. Oh yeah, this is Led Zeppelin. You're like, no, not only is it not Led Zeppelin, but it's not really Kiss.
Not really Kiss, yeah.
No, it's fake.
It reminds me of Armand's shirt that he has that has the Hanson brothers on it, and it says Nirvana.
Yeah.
I've seen another one that has like the Star Wars poster on it, and it says Star Trek underneath it. It's pretty funny. It's the ultimate mind.
Yeah. You know that there's people actually really upset about that. Like if they see that, they'll just walk up to a rando stranger and be like, "Sir, you do know that is incorrect."
You're gonna have to leave. You are trolling us, and we don't.
They'll know how to complain in Klingon too, right? And they'll be complaining in Klingon and being like, "No, this is totally incorrect." Oh my gosh! Dude.
So, tell me, dude, what have you been doing since for the past week? Anything cool? Anything exciting?
Well, I've been doing a lot of recording, and that's been cool, right? And I've been reading, dude, and I've been just getting out a little bit, like kind of changing my life up a little, you know, to where I'm starting to work more during the morning when the kids are at school, because it does suck, man, when you're doing stuff at night. You know, we record this at night, and it's on Friday. So, I mean, our Friday nights, you know, there's a chunk of time that, you know, I wouldn't be able to go with the kids. If we're like, oh, let's go see a movie on Friday night, we'd have to reserve that for Saturday or something on Sunday. And so it's been a little bit difficult. And now that I'm doing other things and, you know, elsewhere, I'm finding myself recording at night again. And it's kind of been a bummer. And so I made some big changes to where I'm going to be doing that during the morning. And it's been really great, man. And not just for that, but because it's kind of creating a space and a time for me to really focus more of my energies on writing, because I love writing, and I used to write all the time, every day. Dude, I'd stay up like till 1 a.m, you know, sitting there drinking Camo Black Ice malt liquor, double fisting big cans, smoking some cloves, writing poetry every single night. That's what I did. And I'd write articles every day. And I wrote monologues and speeches, and I did all that. And I just got away from it. Just got away, dude. I just started talking into microphones and never kind of got back to that first love of writing. And so I've been doing that more and more. And part of that, man, a big part of that's you, dude. Not just because you're a writer and you're like the man, but also because you got me to read a book, and I read it. Stephen King on writing, dude.
Heck yeah, man.
Well, okay. In fairness, I didn't read the entire thing. I did not really care so much to read the biography part. You know, I mean, I'm like, look, truth be told, I've never read any of his books. None. I think I've only seen a couple of his movies, and from what I've heard from, you know, hardcore fans, they're not even the really good ones. A Green Mile, I think I saw part of it. I saw the part that made me cry. So maybe there's more than one. Shawshank Redemption, right? So seen Shawshank. In fact, I really like that movie a lot. And what's the one, man? Night Stalkers or some crap. What is that, man? Or the mom and the son are in this incestuous kitty cat relationship.
Oh yeah. Sleepwalkers.
Sleepwalkers. What did I call that, man? Night Stalker. Night Stalkers.
I think it's called Sleepwalkers. I could be wrong. Yeah, that's not a very well-done movie.
It might be Night Stalkers. It's at least possible, right? Is range of possibility. It's Night Stalkers.
It might be.
No, I don't think so.
Google it.
Oh no. Oh, I'm about 99% sure, dude. It is not Night Stalkers. I mean, no, I wonder if there is a movie. Is there a movie? Now that you're on Google, dude, just look it up. Is there a movie Night Stalkers? I mean, it's got to be. It's got to be. It's got to just. Yeah, probably somewhere out there. Probably sucks, but it's out there. But so I haven't seen too many. But On Writing was a great book, dude. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's a very good book. And anyone who wants to, and I try to encourage non-horror writers, because now that you've read it, you can clearly see this is not something that, like, don't get it wrong, man. This is, if you absolutely hate writing horror, this book is, or I'm sorry, reading horror or anything to do with it, this book is still absolutely for you.
You know, it's funny because it wasn't until just now that I really conscientiously thought about the idea that he's a horror writer when I was reading the book, because it doesn't, I mean, he obviously brings that up. He brings up books he's written. Okay. But he's really just talking about, what it means to be a writer, what works for him, the way he conceptualizes things, the way that he sets it into situations. He asks a question, and then from that question or a series of them arises a situation that plays itself out. And that I liked how he talked about the paralyzing effect of plotting something out and, writing up this long backstory of everything and the symbolism. Cause I get caught up in that. I love it, that stuff, dude, but it just wrecks me, man. And so to be able to read that and to hear what he's talking about kind of just getting to the point, and if there is symbolism, in fact, you should wait. What did he say? 6 months. He said, put that bugger away, or I think 4 months, 6 months, put it away, and then take it back out. So you're like distant from it, Yeah. And when you take it back out, if you see certain themes, then when you're doing your second draft, you're polishing that thing up, draw on those themes. But until then, and he says, he treats it like an artifact. He says stories are something discovered. And I liked that. I liked that idea more than it's an invention where you're inventing something. It's more like, you're digging this up. It's already there. Yeah. And I loved that. I loved so much about the book. It was I don't even really know. I love the part even where he's talking about, the disciplines necessary. And he uses somebody's name. I think it's Frank. This guy named Frank, not his real name. Everything, is kind of fictionalized to protect the innocent. But he was talking about the things that he did and the diligence he had about having a list of where he sent, different articles to or stories to, their reactions to it, things like that, so that you could get a feel after a while. Number one, should I send it back here? Are they interested? Do they want something different? And laying that thing out and having it so that even when he got really bad news where they were going to publish something, it was a really big deal, but then the magazine or whatever went under. And they apologized. They said, we're really sorry about this. I think the owner died or something, and they weren't going to keep going. And so he had to roll with that, but he already had that toolbox. And so that writer's toolbox kind of thing. And so there was so much in that. And then in the very end, I really liked how number one, he talked about the accident, right? All the pain, all the difficulties and things that he went through, and the role of his wife, not only with his writing, but just in his life and stuff, and how writing helped him through this, and gave him joy, right? Made him happy, right? Come on, let's be happy kind of thing. And at the end, he provided in a first draft with the markings for second draft on it, and then a key that explained what each one of those were for. And I read it, and I could see so many things in my own writing that I said, okay, this may work really good when I'm writing for, you know, a personal kind of short story, but it's like faction, right? It's real, but it's kind of gonzo. And I'm writing about it from first person. But if I'm trying to do a story like I'm trying to do right now, both with the story about my daughter and of my own, that these things about that I can get rid of, that I don't need to worry about. I don't need to tell people things. I can allow them, the reader, to fill in the blanks and not feel as though I have to, like, what's the point of that? Why include that? And there were things in there that I could imagine in his first draft, I could imagine writing, because I have written things like that, right? I have. And I thought, this is great. Okay, number one, I know I can get it out. Number two, I know that a wildly successful author has the same thing that he goes through.
Yeah, it's encouraging. And you know, the advice about basically putting your manuscript in a drawer for, you know, months at a time, it's a really, really smart idea, but it's also very difficult to do. Especially, I wouldn't imagine it being very difficult for him, because he I mean, he's got it made. It's not like he's like, with my writing, because it's all I'm doing right now for a living, I'm kind of racing against time. You have to stay relevant. You have to put stuff out, you know? And so I don't really have the time to sit around and write a book and then just do nothing with it for 3 months and then begin my other one. But it's just one of those things where it's like, I know that this is the right way that I should do it. And the reason why I know that is because there's been stuff that I've published, in particular my first short story collection, where if you've only been writing for a short amount of time, and by short amount of time I mean 2 or 3 years, you may have not even found your voice yet. And when you pull that manuscript out after you've been writing other stuff and reading books, which is super important, you're going to look at that and go, oh man, thank God I did not like get this published, because there's so much that I could be doing that's better than this. And I don't know when that finally stops happening. That's one of the reasons why I don't really like reading my stuff after it's been published, because I know I will find it's like an artist looking at their painting. It's like, you know, it's never truly finished. It's just they stop, you know, because there's just always something that they're going to want to tweak or do something different. And that's the same way with a story or a novel or whatever. And yeah, it's advice that give, but I don't practice.
You don't do it. You don't practice what you preach,
really.
man.
I was just going to say, I mean, I have before, but not because it was like, you know, I'm going to sit on this kind of thing. You know, it's just because, you know, I've got stuff where I'm several thousand words into a book, and then I got other stuff going on for months, and then I got to go back to that thing. And then I, all of a sudden, I change all the stuff that I'd have already, you know, written, or a short story that maybe I haven't found a home for yet, or something. And then I go to send it out, and it's been a couple months, and I reread it and do it. But yeah, not anything where it's like, I'm ready. This thing's ready to be sent out somewhere to be published or whatever. Or publish it myself. I'm gonna wait for 3 months. Yeah, I don't usually do that on purpose.
You know, another thing that he's saying is really good. I mean, he had the what first draft 100%. You just get it out as fast as you can, right? Kind of thing. You just, you know, get it out, man. And then later fine tune. He says what 100%, and then the second one is 10% less. Is his idea of it. You know, but I benefited too, in a weird way, from reading the selections of otherwise successful authors that he used as examples of what he thinks is wrong. Because I thought, you know, take Lovecraft, for example. He used Lovecraft when talking about dialogue. And it sounded like it was inner dialogue. It was a lot of these kind of, you know, spurts of words, and then ... and then another kind of random thought, you know, oh my gosh, there's a monster, ... the danger in the darkness, ... And it kind of was this long rambly thing, and it didn't sound at all realistic, but I thought, here's a guy wildly successful, you know. So I mean, even though a lot of people, and kind of the majority of writers now, don't do that sort of thing, that there's still not only a place for it, but that you may not be the best at a specific part of writing. You may not even be the great, very good at it, but people may read that and still identify a great deal with the story as a whole. And I thought that was, it was comforting a little bit, because I'm like, I've never written a whole bunch of dialogue. Almost all the stuff I've ever written was poetry, speculative fiction, right? The kind of prose and speculative fiction. And I've written things that most of it first person, right? Now, I don't know if I've hardly ever written until recently anything that's not first person. And it's made it easy, or or that it's strict journalism, right? Or op-eds and stuff like that. And it's just so much different. And so to get used to the idea of writing dialogue, I realized, number one, it takes practice, right? It's what he says, takes practice. Part of that practice is not just sitting down and typing all the time, which you should be doing, but also reading, which that's been a big deal for me, because, I read a lot of articles, but I kind of go in spurts when it comes to reading poetry or reading a fiction book or whatever. But reading more and turning everything off, opening up a book and doing my thing. Also listening. Yeah. Listening more and paying attention to those little things rather than waiting for your turn to talk, because see, I have a problem with that. I mean, that's, it, right? You go to show with me, this, you've known me a long time. So, that's something, dude, that it's just all my life. I've kind of struggled with this idea that, it's not quite Charlie Brown, the wow, like, it's not like that. I'm not oblivious to what people are saying, but a lot of times I'm missing, it's almost like I'm disembodying their voice from everything that's them. And I'm just taking in the words strictly, almost like it's on paper, and then analyzing real fast so that I would know what to say next, instead of trying to pick up little things that they do. Like my son puts his knees under his shirt when he talks. He kind of scrunches up and he's got his knees up against his chest and he puts his shirt, which is a terrible habit, but it's going to ruin these t-shirts, right? It's like, don't do that, bro. But I noticed that, right? Teresa, when she was little, would suck her thumb and put her other finger in her nose. Now, I did notice that, right? That was a problem. But the thing is recognizing the little nuances in the way that people talk and the things that they do as they're about to talk or when they're finished talking, and being able to blend that in with the dialogue, right? And it was something that, since reading it, I've been trying really hard to be honest, when I'm not doing this, to be quiet more. Yeah.
I consider myself to be fairly good at writing dialogue, but my friend has a podcast, several podcasts. His name is Jay Thorne. He's a writer and a really cool dude. Anyway, in his podcast, he was talking about knowing how to do something versus being able to teach it. And it wasn't until I heard him talking about that I realized that there are several things that I know how to do, but I'm not a good teacher. I can't teach you how to do something. I just know when something is right. So if I'm writing a song on guitar and I know that these chords go together and they make like a kind of a bright and cheery song, I can't tell you why. This is the kind of song I want to be writing, and I know which kind of chords or sound that I want to make that happen. And if I want something a little bit darker and dreary, I can't be like, well, if you want that, you need to be using minor chords and you need to, I don't know how to do that kind of stuff. I'm sorry, I don't know how to teach that kind of stuff. And the same goes with writing particularly, because I don't know all of the like terms for things. If I see a sentence and it's not working, I can't say like, well, it's because this is written in passive voice and you're using this thing here, and you can't do that at the end of a sentence. I don't know that. I just know that it doesn't work, but I can't teach you why. It's very weird. And I used to kind of get down on myself until I heard that on Jay's podcast, where he's talking about some people they just know how to do it. And some people are teachers, and maybe they don't even know how to do it. I've used this analogy before on being on interviews and stuff on other podcasts. But maybe not within this context. You take someone like, I don't know if you know who Yngwie J. Malmsteen. He's arguably one of the most technically advanced guitar players, guitar virtuoso.
Yeah.
Very, very classically trained, very,
Yeah.
very good. He can't write a song to save his life. As far as something that has a hook or that is pleasurable to listen to or memorable. He's got several albums out, but when you listen to him, it's all flash. And then you've got someone like Kurt Cobain, who wasn't that great of a guitar player. And he didn't suck, but he's a great songwriter. Incredible. He was an incredible songwriter. Same with Glenn Danzig, who barely plays guitar. He wrote all of the Misfits stuff and all the solo Danzig stuff on guitar. He wrote all of that stuff. But it's the songwriting. And so you've got your Yngwies who can teach you how to play guitar and say, well, if you want this, do this and do this. And it's all very like robotic and soulless. And then you've got somebody else like Cobain or Danzig who can write very, very catchy songs that everybody loves, but they probably can't really teach you a class in songwriting or certainly how to excel at being a guitar player, and which scales go with which chords and what's a pentatonic scale versus, they wouldn't be able to do any of that stuff.
Yeah.
So I would assume some of your teachers, like your school, and I'm not dissing on professors or English teachers or anything like that, but I would assume that there are many, maybe even most, who can tell you all about it, but they can't write a good story that keeps the reader interested to save their life. And so that's kind of where I'm at. And with dialogue, or writing empathetic characters, sad stories. A lot of people think that some of my stuff is tear inducing, and I would never be able to say, well, if you want to write a tear inducing story, I could give you some tips on stuff, but I couldn't teach a course on it. I just know what works and what doesn't. And if I hear a dialogue, I can tell if it's authentic or if it's not. And, I still have a lot to learn about all aspects of writing. I read some dialogue and I'm just like, man, that's fantastic. I don't know if you've seen it. There's a new movie out right now based on a book called Thinking of Ending Things. And the dialogue in that movie is just incredible, man. It's it's one of those movies where you either think it's the greatest thing or you think it's the worst movie and waste of your time that you've ever seen. So,
like the Florida Project.
Ooh.
Like
Ladies
the
and
Florida
gentlemen, this
Project.
is the last PaleoCheeze podcast episode. Thanks for tuning in. Oh man. You can't. Someone just tagged me on Twitter the other day and said, my buddy Jason, he said, you were right, Chad, about Florida Project. And I was like, heck yeah, it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, that's another good example of excellent dialogue. But anyway,
that is the saving grace for the movie. It is, in all seriousness, right? That is one thing about that movie, because I was critical of it. We never ended up talking about it because I think you were just so upset about my opinion you couldn't bring yourself to do a show about it.
No, that's when we decided to change the format of the podcast.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I know. So but no, I like the dialogue, and I was going to say something real quick, man, about you. I wish I understand what you're saying about people who can teach, but yet not do. I have some things in my own life like that, that I'm not very good at doing.
More they can do, but can't teach was where I was.
Yeah, but that's the flip
reference
side
other
of
way,
it.
but
Yeah. Well, I was thinking okay, so they can do, but they can't teach. On the flip side of that, I know of a guy named Harvey Pinnock, who is a golf instructor, one of the greatest of all time. And he saw Arnold Palmer one time when Arnold Palmer was really young, and hitting balls, you know, and just 300 yards or whatever. And he said, I'm done. I'll just teach from now on. And he did. But I wish I would have known. I wish, I don't know what it was, Chad. Like, you know, you were going out on a limb with this, but you know, I wish I would have known that there's some things, especially with guitar, that you know, you can do, but you may not be able to teach. Cause I've been washing dishes for years trying to get dexterity, and it is not working at all. Massaging my wife. I'm cleaning up. I'm doing all these crazy chores around the house, dude. And I'm thinking, I saw a video, Chad. It's Chad's instructional video for how to play guitar, part 1. Yeah. And it just, and for it's dexterity.
Parody video. Yeah. I have given tons of guitar lessons to men, children, women. But there's a jump off point for me. You know, I can teach you how to play guitar, but I'm not gonna, like I said, the structure of songwriting. That's not something that I can teach, or even, you know, yeah, any kind of aspect on that, or music theory or anything like that. It's just, for me, it's more of a, like with story writing, it's more of a feel. You know, this doesn't work. This scene doesn't work. This sentence doesn't work. This name doesn't work. These words don't work together. Well, why not? I don't know. They just don't. And I'm not going to use them.
I feel like when I write something, that as I'm writing it, and, you know, I wrote something, I wrote something for Meaning of Catholic a while back, and it was called The Blinding Light of Darkness. And it's about a Rorate Mass where it's all candles, and it's early in the morning, so the sun's not up. And by the time the Mass is complete, the sun should be up, shining through the windows. It's a very beautiful thing. And I wrote it overnight. I stayed up for hours. I think I got to bed around 5 in the morning. So I did it to be in the dark, in the night, like that. But it wasn't.
Is it because you procrastinated?
Okay.
Is that why you're up till 5?
It might have actually been a little bit. Dude, you got me a little. I'm not gonna lie. Like, it was.
Man. I know you.
It was a little bit. It was one of the rare occasions that I said I would write something and a person gave me a deadline. But the thing is that it wasn't until I began reading it out loud. And same thing with different chapters of my book where I'll read it out loud. And that doesn't mean that it works. I mean, there's editors and readers, the ideal reader or whatever that I would have, to use King's phraseology, to provide it to them, might say, look, don't use this. Even if I've read it out loud by myself, and I've read it into a microphone and listened to it, and I'm like, I like the way that sentence sounds. It may be either out of place or not essential, or, irritating, right? It could be a number of things. And it really does kind of take sometimes other eyes, but at least hearing it out loud spoken. Cause I do that with my speeches. Yeah. Obviously, I write my speeches. I'm a speech writer. So I know what it's like to tell a story in a speech. And I've seen many a people cry. I've seen many a people laugh and then cry and then laugh. And so to do that. And so, I understand it a little bit, but I'm so grateful to have read that. And I always enjoy reading about people's thoughts about writing. Mm-hmm. I read one, what is his name? Matthew Arnold, a poet. One of the many things that he did, I believe, is a British guy, talking about literary criticism. I really enjoy that. I enjoy reading, and I know those are a little bit highfalutin people, right? Kind of the ivory towers debating amongst themselves on whether or not they think the other person's as good as them. And so, but I enjoy it, because to me, I can read it and say, okay, I'm understanding what they mean about the criticism of the flow of this poem. Does the stanza work? That kind of thing. And so I really appreciate it. And this was an awesome thing to read on writing by Stephen King. And it was because of you, bro. It was because of you. Yeah.
I remember I told you, I don't remember what you were reading. And I said, stop everything that you're reading. Don't read anything else until you read this book. If you're going to be writing, This is the one. And I'm so glad that you did, because like I said earlier, people can get turned off. Oh, Stephen King. Yeah, I don't like horror. It's like, no, you don't understand, man. This is not a horror story. But speaking of Ouija boards, my
Dude, people don't know this if they don't watch, man, but I vape. I'm sitting there and I'm taking a drag. I got it on mute and I'm taking a drag and I'm like almost at the end, and I inhale like people smoke weed. I mean, it's like just straight to the dome, you know? So, I mean, it's like hitting the back of my throat, man. It's a pretty hard hit. And all of a sudden you say that, dude, there was vapor all over this room, dude.
I watched this movie last week called Witchboard, and I thought I'd seen it before. And it's got how do you say her name? Tawny Katane. It's the red-haired chick from the White Snake videos, and she also used to be on some TV show. A real pretty girl. Anyway, she was in this thing, and a couple of actors.
Dude,
I wasn't really.
Yeah. White Snake. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever seen a White Snake video. And I always get White Snake for some reason. I always get White Snake mixed up with Big White or the Great White.
Great White? The Great White or Great White the band?
The band.
Yeah, I can't.
Yeah, I always get them mixed up. I don't know what it is, man. Or White Heart.
I saw White Snake. Yeah, I saw White Snake in concert. I was only going to see Anthrax because they were opening up. This is in '87. And yeah, as a matter of fact, Joe Dewey bought me a ticket and was like, hey, do you want to go see Anthrax and White Snake? And I was like, yeah, let's go. And so, yeah, I took my girlfriend too. And boy, when White Snake played, my girlfriend was, she was sitting on my lap I was on the floor for Anthrax. And then once White Snake started, I wasn't that interested. So we sat in the chairs or whatever. And she lost her mind, man. Because that band at the time, '87, you know, just hair everywhere, and you know, some handsome men up there. And she was sitting in my lap, and dude, it was dangerous to be around her at the time.
Because she felt the White Snake.
She oh my goodness.
It drove her wild. She was out of control.
She was out of control. She was screaming and crushing me and kicking, and it was funny. I was scared and laughing at the same time. You know, so anyway, I'm watching Witchboard, and it's a silly movie about a. I mean, it's an '80s movie. It was fun for the nostalgia, just you know, for. Just I can watch the worst movie, man, that's in the 70s or 80s and just have such a great time, and it's just stinking hot garbage, but it's okay because it's you know, because there's something about nostalgia, man. It's such a powerful thing. So I'm watching this thing. There's a Ouija board involved, and it's called Witchboard, and it reminded me of when my mom and I I think it was the late 70s or very early 80s. We went to Myers Toy World downtown. I think that's where it was. And she bought me a Ouija board, like a Parker Brothers Ouija board. And we brought it home. This is before the Satanic Panic. We brought it home and you know, did it a couple times, the Ouija board thing. Put our hands on there and asked questions, and our hands moved around, and they're supposed to, something about the science behind it. It's just the movements are so subtle that you don't realize that, you know, as we were doing it, I never felt like, you know, oh my gosh, these are spirits moving this thing. I think I was kind of fascinated by it, but I was also fascinated by the science behind it. If somehow by the power of suggestion, on a subconscious, very subtle level, our fingers are moving this thing to, you know, things that subconsciously that we're answering our own questions. And I just thought it was weird because if you knew my mom, this is the same woman who made me tape over the word ass in my cassette tape and cut out the cover of my Diary of a Madman thing because it had an upside down cross, and forbade me to listen to Black Sabbath, even though I had all of their stuff hidden away. She's the one who bought me a Ouija board, and I thought that was kind of funny.
That is a
My
little weird.
wife.
Yeah.
But it's just, it's like she probably saw, oh, Parker Brothers. Okay, yeah. This is a toy,
Yeah. I never played with one. I got what was it? The knockoff, man. What is that? Simon, right? Isn't that like a knockoff of the Ouija board?
No. Not even close, dude.
Not even close.
Wow.
No, obviously. Yeah, I know what Simon is, dude.
It's like saying a basketball is a knockoff of a vehicle.
Yeah. I didn't get a car, but I did get a basketball. Close. Both of them roll. So no, I never played with it. I think it was because the way I was raised and stuff. In fact, I don't even know if I had any friends who owned one. And in fact, the only time I've ever seen one where I've gone into somebody's home or into even a business, this one, it was a business, is a coffee shop in Grand Rapids. And they've got one there.
Mm-hmm.
I never saw anybody. So I've never seen anybody play it, but I never even got around any of stuff like Magic the Gathering or Dungeons and Dragons or anything like that. And so, I was just never in that world.
That's a shame, man, because I had some good times playing D&D when I was a kid. Some good times. That's another thing. My parents didn't care. They didn't care about that stuff, man.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I think I've got like a bias against like really intense role play games. But it's hypocritical, right? That's a cognitive dissonance for me because I do role play, right? I play around with personas, dude. I'm a media guy, so I have persona. I know what that's like to create a brand that you say, well, this is what I am when I'm this way, and it's not exactly who I am. And that's not even in a game. That's a job. So I mean, I'm kind of taking that to like another level. It's almost like being a carny or something. For a medieval festival carnival. that's what my life work has been.
Let me ask you this then.
Yeah.
So you're kind of like not sure about the whole D&D thing.
Yeah.
Sounds like. Are you okay with C.S. Lewis and Tolkien?
I don't know if I've ever read The Hobbit or any of the Lord of the Rings. My mom has.
You've seen the movies.
Yes.
Yeah, and
I've seen the movies with the elves and stuff.
Works and stuff like that. Yeah. So
yeah.
I'm assuming you've got no problem with that.
No, I don't have. Look, I don't have a problem with it. But if somebody all of a sudden says they are the orc, then I'm in a little bit of a world. A little bit of a thing.
What is the difference between Tolkien or C.S. Lewis sitting down and writing this thing, and then you and your friends writing it, and just taking on the, basically what you're doing is you're
taking on part. I think, and look, I think maybe, and as I said, it might be a bias that in my life, the majority of people that I've known who are into that, like I used to host a group that met at a bookstore in Grand Rapids, and I was the presenter. So I hosted it. I brought in people, and every day I'd go in there. We'd have to walk all the way through the bookstore, and in the back they have tables laid out, and there were like 15 people there playing D&D, and they looked like if I had an image in my mind, right? Kind of like if somebody says, well, draw an apple, and you draw an apple and it doesn't look real, but everybody knows that's what it is. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like that, except that every time I've ever seen it, they look like the archetypal image in my brain of what this is. I've never seen, it'd be like drawing an apple, the cartoony apple, and you go out and every time you see an apple, it actually looks like that. That is kind of how it has been. And not just the looks, of course, I don't want to judge books by their covers, but the kind of interests, personality types, things like that. And I've got friends that are really down with it. So I'm not like, don't come near me. I've got friends. In fact, some of our closest friends, Team Tiny Dancer family type people, those individuals are gamers, and we've had big debates They got really upset when I wrote an article called When Nintendo Killed My Playground. And they were really upset about that. And they talked about what it was like to grow up at a playground where that was a torturous thing, right? That they were beat up on that playground. They weren't playing baseball. They were getting their tails kicked. And that getting into these games, whether they were board games, role play, whether they were Zelda, which, that kind of thing, similar concepts, right? Final Fantasy on video game systems, that they were saving the queen. They were a hero, right? So I get that. I get it with the people. I have tons of friends, dude, that play that part at medieval festivals and Renaissance fairs. And I have a costume too, but I only go once a year.
You're talking about like I've put in several hundred hours of D&D from the age of like 9 until 16, and then I think I had like a 10-year hiatus and played for a while, and then another 15-year hiatus and then played for a while. But I have never worn anything that wasn't the clothes I had on that day. And I've never played with anyone that did anything like that. And that's, like what was the what was your favorite movie we watched? What was that called again? Unicorn City.
Unicorn City.
Yeah, that's never been my experience. It's creating a character with, the random rolling of dice and then choosing things that you would, like a character selection screen. Do I want my hair brown or yellow? Well, in this case, it'd be like, well, do I want to be casting spells or do I want to swing a sword? Do I want to be a halfling or a dwarf, or do I want to be a human, or what do I want to be doing with this? And then I've never experienced anything even remotely close to being like where someone is like dangerously disassociating themselves from reality. And it's been nothing more than, hey, I got an idea. It really is like telling a story. You've got your, it's like one of those choose your own adventure books. You ever read one of those before?
Yeah, of course.
Well, some of them have.
But how many people, for real, man, how many people take it like really seriously? So they might not dress up. For clarity, I've never seen anyone playing D&D that dressed up as characters. Or that they're like, no, I really am a furry, right? A furry with a Viking outfit.
Yeah, no, those
but the idea of taking a role that is not you and playing that role and creating that character. And to be fair, it's the influence of that is vast, by the way. Okay, because there's so many people who do like it, especially in the gaming community, that even games that in the past had a very limited concept of role play. Take Tony Hawk. I used to love Tony Hawk, but now you get on Tony Hawk and half of it is mission and building your character and putting on different clothes and making your guy. And I'm like, screw this. I'm done. I just wanted to do some ollies, man. I wanted to jump from rail to rail and do these crazy cool things where you can see how long you can go and the numbers keep racking up. And so that was my style of gaming. Was that, and I never liked playing games where, take Zelda as, because that was kind of my first peek into some of how this works as a kid, was watching my cousin play and realizing that rather than, let's say, playing Kung Fu or a sports game or something, this dumb game had it so that you could bump into bad guys and not even see they were there, and then they're the same bad guys with the same music. And then you had to be like, you had to pick what you wanted to do. Okay, do I want to do this? Do I want to do that? Do I want to do this? And it goes back and forth, and it's super slow. And to me, as a kid, accustomed to games like Punch Out or Double Dribble or Double Dragon, games that were active, that you didn't have to like flip through to see what you wanted to do and what potion you wanted for this. And it was like real fast action. Bam, 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 bam. It drove me nuts because bro would be on there for a long time. So there's probably multifaceted reason why I have a reluctance to really play. And whenever I do, I played a game that is kind of like that. I forget the name of it. My buddy, I watched Mac and Me with him and went to his party, and he's really into those kind of games too. I don't know about D&D. I don't know. But him and I have a couple of friends. They're all really into it, and there was a party, and I was there, and they were like begging, "Come on, bro, you got to play this game." And so I did, and I knew nothing. Even after they explained everything to me, and they all knew because they know the language, right? There's certain concepts and things that go along with this that if you're not familiar, it's foreign. It's kind of Greek. Well, I just picked basically my philosophy the whole time was if any of these esoteric symbols come up that look like Illuminati, I'm picking those ones. And dude, I totally crushed everybody. I had no idea what I was doing. And so it was a fluke, right? I mean, it wouldn't happen every time. But on that particular instance, and I'm like, and they wanted me to play again. I'm like, no, I don't want to play it. So even when I won. So I'm not judging in a way that says they dress up. I'm not saying that. In fact, I'm saying that they all look like they kind of look and act. The people I've seen when they're playing, they kind of look and act like the people at the beginning of Unicorn City, where they're playing that game.
I understand that. That's what's so cool about, and a lot of people don't know this about me. The ones who know me in real life know this, but I'm a huge, I don't role play much anymore. I get a little bored with it. And when I say role play, I mean play D&D. I don't really even role play when I'm playing D&D other than, hey, I'm going to shoot my arrow at that dude. Do I need to make a saving throw, or do I need to, all this kind of stuff? I'll do that. But as far as like actual role playing, I don't really do any of that. I know what you're saying about those kind of people. And I don't know how many people know this about me. Everybody in real life knows this, but I'm a huge board gamer. All kinds of like really mind-boggling, like heavy games that like Thinking Man's or Thinking Woman's games, with a gazillion different pieces, and you just get intimidated by even looking at them, not stuff like Monopoly or anything like that. But I have a game group, and I have regular guys that I'm really close with that come to this game group. And when you look at me and you know anything about me, about the music that I'm into, and the movies that I'm into, and literature that I'm into, I'm not someone that you would think would be into stuff like this, like playing D&D or playing these types of board games. But I am. When I started my game group, and it kind of grew over time, I was actually concerned, man, that I didn't want to be playing with the types of people that you're talking about. And I'm trying to say this as politely as I can. But yeah, if you do walk into, say, a comic book store, and everybody is kind of like that dude from maybe The Simpsons, where nobody really has a filter, and maybe or even a personal hygiene, or things like that, and you just can't relate on a level that I just pictured everybody being completely uncultured. They don't know anything about anything that I'm into at all. But my gaming group, my buddies, I'm going to give them a shout out. Anthony and Rick and Ryan, Shane, Jamie. And now that I'm naming them off, I'm probably forgetting some. Bobby. Webb comes and plays with us sometimes. Love all those guys. And
is that their real names or their avatar names?
Oh my gosh, dude.
I'm kidding. Yeah.
No, I really love those guys. They're a pleasure to hang out with. And I don't get to see them enough, especially now that COVID. We haven't seen each other in several months, but they're very hip, man. And it's not like that at all. We might not be into all of the, same music and stuff, but they're cool dudes. A couple of them are pharmacists, and a couple of them have nerd out with the IT jobs, but God bless them, they're really good guys. And
yeah. Well, I mean, look, I I can be critical, man, but number one, I'm not busting on them for their body odor. and number two, I'm your friend. You're my friend. And I know you're a gamer. One of the first things it wasn't one of the first things, but I learned really early on that you were a gamer. So I've known that. I remember you when you were into like World of Warcraft and stuff like that. But I also know, and this is something to say, that I'm not just saying these about like people I don't know, but even with you, you've tried wrangling me in before into your gaming group a couple times. And one time was the euchre thing. And I am the weird Michigander dude that refuses to budge on euchre. I've tried, I suck at it. I have no interest in it. I'm like, I watch people play,
that's not even, if that's not even what I'm talking about, but yeah.
But it's got the weird dynamic. It's got the weird dynamic of a game group that's real serious about something like,
I'm telling you what, yeah. If you were to come over and play some of these games, they would challenge you, my friend. They would, dude. You'd be like, they make you think, dude. They're not, and you got to do it. I've got a couple friends that I've been wanting to get over, and my brother too, Casey, been wanting to get him over here for years. Remember Brian Bates, don't you? He used to play poker with us. Yeah, he's gamed a couple times, and it's weird because board gaming is one of those things where this is so weird about it. If I say, "Hey, do you want to come over and play board games?" I mean, what do you picture in your head?
If you were to say, "Come over and play games," because I've gone over. Now, I've only gone over when there was a handful of us, right? And we mainly played cards, and we played things. What was the Queen one? Was that a made up game, by the way?
What?
The game with the queens. What was that called? Isn't that where Queenie came from?
Yeah, I think
that was it. You guys were calling me Queenie.
It was a poker game, and yeah, I think we were calling you Queenie because it was dealer's choice, and every time we'd play poker, and it would come to you, you'd want to play queens, and so we start calling you Queen.
So I've seen people, and I have a lot. As I said, I've got a lot of friends who do this. I've got friends that's what they do. They love board games. They have game nights. I've called and said, "Hey man, you want to hang out?" And they're like, "Oh no, sorry man, we got a game night tonight. You should come over." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm blow drying my hair. I thought you'd want to come over and watch me do it." So I make an excuse, but I've been there enough to these parties that I know that the vast majority of the people, at least that are in kind of my circle, right? A lot of these people are individuals that if I'm not even playing and I'm just watching them play, that conversations taking place. I've had conversations with individuals that have been a lot of fun. We've had things a lot in common. And then they start talking the gibberish talk and, the game language that I don't understand. And I'm like, oh no, thanks. I'll pass on that. But I mean, it's kind of like having a friend who is really, really into Kirby vacuums or into essential oils that you're like, I may not really be into that, but you're a great person. I'm going to be friends with you. I'm going to be friends with you. And they're always like, if you saw my Kirby vacuum, if you saw this Kirby, you came over. If I gave you a demonstration, oh, come on.
So put it this way then. You basically answered my question by
oh no.
You don't have anything really envisioned. And you don't know if you would enjoy the experience. And that's kind of my point.
What?
Some of these people, like Webb, like Brian Bates, these are people that you would never think they've never played board games before. And when you mention board game, I mean, still you're talking about euchre and stuff. And
I'm not as an apples to apples thing. Like not the game either. It's not a play on words. Right? I'm saying I'm not comparing them in a strict sense, saying, oh, it's like playing this game. I'm bringing in the same thing as being able to say, look, there's shades and degrees of similarity and difference between somebody who's really into D&D and the people I've known who are really into D&D and the way they talk about the game and their role in the game and where they are in the story and all this,
Mhm.
and people who go to medieval festivals on a regular basis, that's something they love to do, to take on that persona, to have a certain role in that story. And that is
Mhm.
role play, because you learn lines and stuff.
Yeah.
And so, and a lot of those people also play games. Like there's an overlap. So it's a Venn diagram. So that's all I'm doing. And I do have an idea of what it's like, because I've got friends that do it. I've been in those situations, and I've
But
got you as a friend, and I've got
yeah,
so I
okay.
know in my
Okay,
head.
but you
Yeah.
haven't experienced it. And what I'm saying is, like with Brian, when I invited him over, and I think we played some kind of gateway game, something that a lot of people play, like
Munchkins.
Settlers of Catan or something like that. And he was surprised and shocked at how much fun that he was having with playing this, because it's not what he thought it was.
You had
it's
me
not,
play that game. I thought it was, remember, I thought it was Munchkins. That's why I just said it, because we've
Munchkin
had
is a
this
horrible game.
conversation. Yes, and you told me that. You said Munchkin's a horrible game, and you couldn't imagine a situation where you would want me to even play that game, because it wasn't that game. It was
Mhm.
Settlers of Catan, and you had me play it. And I,
Who do we play it with?
I was at your house. I don't know who
playing it with somebody. It's not a two-player
Yeah, it
game,
wasn't a
really.
two-person. No. It wasn't just me and you. Might have been your wife.
Well,
It might have been Elijah, dude.
Even then, it's definitely not one of my favorite games. But my point is, I see a lot of people like on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, and they'll post a picture, and they're like, "Yay! It's family game night." And so I'm like, "Oh, cool! Let's see what they're playing." And they're playing like Monopoly or Sorry or something like that, and it's almost painful to look at, dude, because there's so many cool games out there that people aren't aware of. I mean, they're becoming more aware of them, because a lot of the games that we play, that my gaming group and I play, they're starting to show up in places like Target and things like that. Maybe not some of the heavier games, but it's different than it used to be. And yeah, I would like to see you. I don't remember playing that with you. But when the plague is gone and the world is not on fire, then we'll have to get you over here and play some really cool games, because then you've got like subgenres of games. Because let's say you didn't like Catan. It's just one example of one type of game. But
I didn't
be like
it,
saying, well, I don't like games because I don't like games because I played yard darts. And then I'm like, yeah, but have you played poker? Or you're like, I don't like poker. And I'm like, yeah, but have you played darts? They're just, they're all so, it might be a poor example, but I'm just trying to show that they're just such a, they're all vastly different from one another. And there's just so many different types, and you must succumb to the game night over here sometime.
And see, this is a long line of my besties, right? So like in my life, all my best friends except one have been basically people that, whether it's euchre or whether it's playing role play games, they're kind of like, with the exception of my buddy Brian, okay, because Brian, he's not that way, but all the other friends that are like my Peter, James, and Johns of the world, all of them have said something, and I've said this a lot to my family. If my kids were down here, they'd crack up if they heard you say, I need to get you over here because I think if you try it, you'll really like it and you'll have a great time. That is like I've told my kids, I'm like, all my buddies, like, especially euchre. Euchre's the worst one, right? The other guys are kind of like, well, gaming night is not necessarily for everybody, right? But euchre's has been like the big one. But other games too. And, if you don't like this, maybe you'll like this one. And then I'm wrangled in playing a bunch of games, and I'm like, well, I don't know. And I'm like, well, do you guys want to play NBA Jam or something? And they're like, what? I'm like, I like certain games, man. I like games. As I said, the games that I like, I stopped liking, for example, and had a hard time with the later versions of what is it, man? Grand Theft Auto, like San Andreas. Once it got to that level, and it was like you're this character and you're going to these different places, and you know, it was so dynamic. The story behind it burned me out. Same thing with, as I said earlier, same thing with the Tony Hawk game. Same thing with any game. Same dude, basketball. I really like playing basketball games, for example, more than football games, although I do enjoy that. But like I'll play a basketball game, you know, and because that's my gaming. I grew up playing basketball. I was quite good at basketball. But if I asked my buddy over there playing, you know, Magic the Gathering over in the playground to play basketball, that guy'd laugh at me and say, look, I'm playing Wizards over here. And so we kind of have our different worlds too of gaming. And but if I asked people to play those games, that's when I think it might get a little snobbish. I think it might be like, that's lowbrow. those are easy. Pass, run, steal. You know, where's the storyline? Where's the dynamic? And I'm like, it's in a book. don't give me a game, give me a book. You know, and so I don't know, but I don't want to come off like I'm like some cartoon character from an 80s movie that's like, man, nerds, because that's not me. Like I am surrounded by nerddom. I'm a Whovian. That's its own brand of nerddom, dude. And
You're
so
more of a nerd than I am.
And
you're a book nerd.
Yeah, we are. I know. I've got like, yeah, you got a lot of books, you know, and so like, yeah, we're nerds in our own right. I'm okay with the idea. Right. And maybe it's the cabin fever setting in here from, you know, the Branch Covidian complex here. But the idea, and by the way, I heard someone said Branch Covidian on what is it, Urban Dictionary or whatever. And it was saying that it's people who are against things like wearing masks and stuff. And I always imagined that would be the more cultic, freakish person that demands it, you know. But anyway, you know, but maybe it's because cabin fever. Maybe it's because I haven't been out and about. And maybe it's because, look, even if you were somebody pitching essential oils, I would probably enjoy a number of them. And I might even buy a diffuser. So I'm down with the idea of going over. Plus, dude, I know at least a couple of the people you've mentioned, and I like them as guys. They're my friends. And so I haven't seen them in a long time. I'd be down to be the guinea pig for you to be like, dude, try this game and this game. I'll give you like three different games. 3 different games you can say, play this one. You know, because if I go in and I'm playing a game that a bunch of guys already know, and they're all like real serious about it, and it's got its complex rules, and they're all down with it, and it's like, okay, you just come on and you'll get it real quick. There's no problem. That doesn't happen. Right. So
well,
I don't know.
Keep in mind too, these heavier games, we don't like if we got a newcomer or something like that, or somebody that we're trying to introduce gaming into, we don't bust out the heavy games, man. That's not fun for anybody. You got to kind of, you know, wean yourself in there. But I feel like people who haven't tried that and aren't aware of like the other side of like board gaming or whatever, like I feel like you, Jeremiah, have like, you're like, oh, I don't really like chips. I don't really like bags of chips, when all you've really had is pork rinds dipped in peanut butter. And I'm over here with a big old zesty bag of Doritos. And you're like, yeah, no, thanks. I've already tried chips.
And it cut my mouth. That's how I got the Joker face. Yeah. Okay. Those darn Doritos, dude. Always cutting into my gums, man. I have some experience. I'm down with it. I'm down with the idea of saying, all right, man, we'll do this. I'll play. I'm not a raging bigot. Okay?
And you know what? Your euchre experience, I've got a friend, and we jokingly, we make fun of him all the time because he cannot, he's bad at explaining a game. Really bad. Leaves stuff out. And we joke, in my mind, it works a certain way, and I have to have a game explained to me a certain way. And if it's not, then I spend half of the game asking questions over and over again. And I'm wondering if, and so when I do explain a game, I'm like anally thorough, just in case someone, needs that. And I'm wondering if when Euchre was explained to you, if it was explained to you very, very poorly.
You really are a bestie, dude. You are. You fit. You are so a bestie in my life, dude. I love you, man. And so, but you have to. This is my one request: is that you leave open the idea that at the end of the day, I may not like chocolate, but I like vanilla, and I might like Double Dragon or Kung Fu. And I'm throwing out old school Nintendo games, right? I mean, because I actually still have those, like on my TV. Like I've got Tecmo Bowl. I play Tecmo Bowl, and people are like, "Why not play Madden?" And I said, "Well, it's really complex." So I kind of like my games to be a certain simplicity about it, and cut and dry, right? Simple rules, simple controls. I liked it better when there was just simply A and B, select and start. And now there's all these buttons on it and everything, and people using keyboards. I'm like, well, okay. And so that's just me. And maybe it's like an old dog and new tricks a little bit, except when I was a young dog, I tried learning these tricks because all my best friends played these games. So I'm like,
well, if I like chocolate, and you like vanilla, I mean, maybe combined, you would like it. I mean, there ain't nothing wrong with some Jungle Fever. Can I leave that in or what?
If we took that out, it'd be so terrible. Oh my gosh, dude.
I know what you're saying though.
Yeah, and maybe we can mix them. I mean, look, I'm completely down with dressing like an orc and playing basketball with you.
No, dude, I don't want to dress like an orc.
Are you sure, dude? I can explain the reasons why, Chad.
I don't know anybody who does that.
Look, I know.
I've never played with anyone who does that. My son did when he was young. He did some LARPing stuff, and it was really cool to see him. He had a lot of fun.
Did he explain it?
No, I'm just kidding.
But thoroughly. I mean, did he? Because sometimes people don't understand why somebody would dress up like an orc and play basketball.
No, I knew what he was doing. No. It was kind of neat, man, because like I think his grandma and his mom helped make his cloak for him and stuff, and it was a cool thing, and it was, nobody took themselves too seriously. I've seen documentaries where it's like, wow, but God bless those guys and girls because they're having fun, and that's a far cry. That's a far cry from like the role playing where they're dressed up as horses and stuff like that, man. Now that,
dude, I saw the one with you. The first, I didn't even know what LARPing was, and it was because I watched this movie, a documentary about it, where it caused a major fight at the end because they were like counting points, like 25 points, 25 points, 25 points,
lightning bolt.
Lightning bolt. And they're like, no, I calculated in my brain this and that. And I'm like, you're all lying, all of you. Like, there's video evidence of this, by the way. We can just go back and look at it. Why fight? But they were, dude, they were deadly serious. And so maybe that also kind of plays into it. I don't know, but it's, it's one of those things, but I'm willing to do it.
You have reached the end of PaleoCheeze Podcast, Episode 19, Part 1.